Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. We begin tonight in North Africa, where a car bombing has killed at least 7 people and wounded several more in the Libyan city of Benghazi. The bomb exploded on Thursday night near the Tibesti Hotel, the city's largest, on a street where people were out taking a stroll. There has been no immediate claim of responsibility. Benghazi is controlled by the Libyan National Army, which is battling Islamists, including some linked to the terrorist groups Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. Fear and suspicion of medical authorities are slowing the effort of medical officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo at containing the Ebola virus. Health officials in the DRC say they are working hard to get out accurate information about the deadly hemorrhagic fever, but face significant mistrust. Many of the region's residents place more faith in clerics in white collars than doctors in white coats. Local authorities say a doctor and a nurse were threatened by locals after they were accused of bringing the disease to their communities, while people in one town prevented medics from testing the body of someone suspected to have died from Ebola. The Congo government, the World Health Organization and aid agencies are racing to contain what could be the most dangerous of the country's 9 previous epidemics since it was discovered 4 decades ago. Talks in Ethiopia to revive South Sudan's failed 2015 peace pact and end the country's civil war ended on Wednesday without an agreement, likely lengthening a conflict that has killed tens of thousands of people and displaced millions. In a statement, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development said talks between the warring parties proved fruitless. VOA's Paul Cisco has more on how a new path toward peace has been slow.
South Sudan's warring partners failed to sign a new peace deal despite days of intensive negotiations in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. Church leaders taking part in the talks urged the parties to compromise, cooperate, and work with IGAD, the regional East African group, for the sake of millions of suffering South Sudanese. IGAD drafted a bridging proposal with a President Salva Kiir and 3 vice presidents, including First Vice President Riek Machar. It was rejected. The U.S. State Department remains committed to the peace process and the people of South Sudan.
One point I thought at the end of last year we were moving in the right direction. Today, after seeing what I've seen here, houses burned, children shot, the discussion of more conflict and more war, cattle raiding, it's pretty disappointing. I know this is only one place, but all across South Sudan there's conflicts like this happening, if not one place, in another.
Women activists at the talks are calling for 35% participation in all upcoming processes.
It is a time for them to decide for our country, to decide for the peace. This is what the South Sudan people need.
Despite several failed agreements and ceasefires, fighting and civil war has been almost continuous since 2013, just 2 years after independence from Sudan, brokered in part by Western powers. Almost 2.5 million people, mostly women and children, have been forced from their homes to seek refuge in Kenya, Uganda, Sudan, Ethiopia, the DRC, and the Central African Republic. Millions more have been uprooted internally, and tens of thousands of people have been killed. Paul Cisco, VOA News, Washington.
To West Africa now, Burkina Faso says it has cut ties with Taiwan. This means the self-ruled East Asian island has lost a second diplomatic ally in less than a month. Burkina Faso's announcement comes amid intense Chinese pressure on African countries to break with Taiwan, which it regards as part of its territory under the One China principle. Taiwan has been governed independently since 1949 and considers China part of its territory. Swaziland, or Eswatini as it's now known, is Taiwan's only diplomatic ally in Africa. Taiwan accuses China of luring its partners away with generous aid packages. China denies this, saying Taiwan has no right to formal diplomatic ties with any country. Now, Idrissa Fall from VOA's French to Africa service has been following this story closely. He joins me now on Africa 54 to tell us a little more. Idrissa, welcome. And first, why was this decision taken by Burkina Faso now? I mean,
Now,
what happened? What changed?
Because it's very simple. You have a new president in Burkina Faso, Marc Christian Kabore, a new government. At the time we are speaking, the foreign minister of Burkina Faso is heading to Beijing because tomorrow, Saturday, they're going to officially renew the ties with Beijing. So
what we're saying here is that in the last I mean, as things stand now, before yesterday, there wasn't a diplomatic relationship between Burkina Faso and China?
You know, really, they never cut the ties because in the 1970s, most African countries who have relation with Taiwan, Beijing said at that time, you cannot have relation with us if you have ties with Taiwan. Since then, officially, Burkina Faso never cut the ties, but continue having relation with Taiwan. Everybody knows that underneath the table, they would receive something, as for most of African countries, because Taiwan used to pay a lot of money to those countries, including Senegal, and that money, when it came, it never go directly to the budget, or it was not transparent.
Yes.
But now China has its offensive, and you know, build railroads in Kenya, build roads in Angola, parliaments in Congo, all the stadiums you can see in Africa now, including even the siege of African Union at Addis Ababa.
Yes.
China built them.
So it's all about, you know, China using its economic might to literally stifle any kind of relationship that Taiwan may try to have.
It's only a matter of interest. Remember, between countries, there are no friends.
Yeah.
It's a matter of interest. You know that Ethiopia want to have his subway. Okay, China can come and build it. And they want the seat of the African Union. China can come and build it.
Taiwan doesn't have the same kind of money to do that.
That money to do that. No.
So do you see, for example, the relationship that is remaining, the only one with Eswatini surviving long?
But it's a kingdom.
Yes.
And you know, a king has the right to do whatever he wants in his country.
Yeah.
And he received something in exchange, I'm sure. You know.
But from what you understand, so what does it mean? The more Taiwan loses friends, what does that mean to their cause, to their position in the world?
Really, I think all African countries agreed on one thing. They have to gain a lot from China.
Yeah.
Because if you take Congo, all the countries which have oil, diamond, whatever, you know, all those minerals China is interested in. Yeah. They are building roads everywhere. They are digging gold in northern Cameroon. Really, it's a matter, and when they do that, they build roads, they build parliaments, they build even schools. And even now in Dakar, at the university, you can learn Mandarin.
Yeah, some people in Africa get the feeling like that China is actually taking over the continent, literally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's not very good for the continent if they don't transform anything.
Yeah.
If they buy your oil or whatever, they don't transform it there. They take everything and bring it to China.
All right. So, wow. So Taiwan will have to continue struggling, hopefully, to hold on to Eswatini for as long as it can. But it doesn't seem like it has many big friends anywhere around the world. Most of the friends are actually very small, poor countries.
Absolutely.
Wow. Interesting to observe. Idrissa, thank you very much for joining us and sharing this with us. Well, that's Idrissa Fall, VOA's French service. Now, Yetnebesh Ngozi lost her sight at 5 years old, but she has not let her disability slow her down. A tireless advocate for people with disabilities in Ethiopia, she was this year's recipient of the prestigious Spirit of Ellen Keller Award. Yetnebesh recently spoke to VOA's Salem Solomon about her childhood and her life's work.
Yeah, indeed, the atmosphere was not very promising because when you turn blind in a rural country, like in a non-developed country like Ethiopia, people think that all the values you've lost all the values with you. So becoming blind was like quite so many people meant for my mom that, oh my gosh, it's going to be end of her life. She can only leave until you leave, until you're alive, and so on and so forth. So my mom and my grandma really insisted that I could be educated and I can see in an alternative way. So because they couldn't turn my eyesight. So I was born in a rural area, but luckily I was brought to the capital, Addis, for a medical checkup. And then my mom confirmed that I could never get back my eyesight, but she promised that she would give me a better world by education. So she sent me to a special school in a place called Shashamene. That's where I started schooling, and then I joined the regular school after grade 7, and then I studied in the university. In terms of people's assumption, they were never convinced that I would be who I am today, because height is considered to be a basic thing in life, so becoming blind is kind of like the end of the world for quite so many people, so that was the assumption. But I'm so happy, and as I repeatedly say that in the village where I come from, early marriage was the practice, and being born as a girl in that village, had I not been blind, I would have been early married, like at the age of 10 or 12. So I always called that being blind was my emancipator. That way it gave me the path to education and brought me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm. And you also in earlier interviews reveal early marriages as your mom was affected by that, and she was married off at the age of 10. Can you just share a little bit what kind of effects has that had on you growing up, and what kind of message would you share with everyone watching about child brides in places like Ethiopia and beyond?
You know, this is a very heartbreaking fact and a very tragic event, because girls do get married quite early, not for the sake of their own life, but parents want to get dowry, and they also want to get in a strong son-in-law who can help in the farming and so on and so forth. So if a girl doesn't get married at the age of 14 or 15, she's considered unwanted. So, and she's ostracized by the society. And this brings a lot of complication, including fistula, for example. And quite so many of them do not have access to education. And this is all about their life. And they don't decide, because it's your family who chooses for you. So it's not a one-time kind of effect, rather it's a long-time, lifelong effect that it has on the girls. So I think it's important to understand that child bride should not be tolerated at all, because every child has his own or her own chance, because I think this also affects the boys who are chosen their wives by their families. So yeah, it's still practiced in some parts of Ethiopia, including the Amhara region, even though it's prohibited by the laws, because it also requires behavioral change by the society. Yeah, so I thank blindness for getting me out of this dark world of being a child bride at the age of 10 or 12. Not only my mom, but my grandma and all my ancestors back are victims of early marriage, and some of them also suffered some complications because of early marriage. So it's a lived reality. Not only that, but my sisters who are not blind, who were born in that village, or were also married at the age of 12 and 13. So it's not far away, and it's still now we have a generation getting married at the age of 12 and 13.
Well, thank you very much, Solomon. You're watching Africa 54. In a moment, young Han Solo embarks on a galactic adventure in a new Star Wars film. But first, here's a recap of Friday's headlines.
A car bomb explodes on a crowded street in Benghazi, killing at least 7 people and wounding 10. Thousands of students march in the streets of Senegal, blaming school officials for late grant payment and the death of one of their peers last week. In the Central African Republic, 12 people are killed in a majority Muslim district of Bangui after a grenade goes off during violent clashes between Muslim Seleka fighters, Christian anti-Balakas, and other segments of the population. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, aid agencies continue facing challenges combating the spread of Ebola after 2 infected patients left treatment facilities hours before their deaths from the disease.
When Junius Moore lost part of his arm in a car accident, it limited his ability to perform simple everyday tasks like eating and drinking. But now, special prosthesis has not only improved his movements, but his confidence and overall quality of life. Viewers Julie Tabo has more.
Cutting up food may be a normal everyday task for most of us, but not for Junius Moore, who lost part of his arm in a car accident. He gets help from a prosthetic arm called the Luke, which helps him perform movements more easily by reading nerve signals from muscle left after an amputation.
When I think about closing my hand, it'll fire certain muscles in my residual limb, and the prosthetic will learn that means close hand.
Named after the Star Wars character Luke Skywalker, the Luke arm is the first fully integrated prosthesis with a powered shoulder, elbow, and hand that work together as one unit.
Anything previous to the Luke arm did not have a powered shoulder. So anybody that had a prosthesis at that amputation level would literally have to use their other hand to position the prosthesis on that side. Now, as a result of the Luke arm, somebody at that amputation level has full control of their prosthesis without having to use their other arm to position it.
Moore wears a device under his prosthesis to ensure signals are properly routed from his muscles to the device.
Junius has had a procedure called targeted muscle reinnervation, which takes the nerves that used to travel down to the missing limb and reroutes that information to residual muscles that are still there.
What's amazing about the Luke arm is that they've replicated the function of the human hand. The Luke arm is the first prosthesis that allows for 3 different motions in that hand. One is open and close, one is to be able to rotate your wrist back and forth, and the other one is to be able to flex and extend your wrist. This is an unheralded amount of function in a prosthesis that has never even existed before.
Moore says his new arm has done more than just help to improve his movements.
Obviously, there's the functional aspects and there's the social aspects of it. My wife says I stand up straighter these days, and it has helped, instilled more of a sense of confidence.
The technology that's helping Moore can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the hope is that it will eventually be available to anyone who needs it. Julie Tabo, VOA News.
Well, Star Wars fans need wait no longer. Another Star Wars installment, this one, a spin-off about Han Solo's formative years as a pilot and fighter, opens on IMAX movie screens around the world. Solo, a Star Wars story, traces the beginnings of the friendship between Han Solo and Chewbacca, the giant hairy Wookiee. Viewers Penelope Pulu spoke to the more than 2-meter tall Jonas Suotamo, who plays Chewbacca.
I'm going to be a pilot. Best in the galaxy.
Hey, kid. I'm putting together a crew. You in?
That's yes.
I'm very happy playing Chewbacca. I couldn't be happier about this film, because just to have everyone see this, how Han and Chewbacca first met, and be with us on that adventure is just warms my heart tremendously.
2-meter-tall Star Wars fan Jonas Suotamo could not believe his luck when he first received the casting call to play the legendary Wookiee, originally portrayed by Peter Mayhew. The former professional basketball player appeared in the last 4 Star Wars films under the Chewbacca costume, but he says his role in this installment was the most demanding yet.
Because it's so physical. I mean, there are things that Chewbacca needed to do that involve choosing a more athletic approach into filming.
Since when do you know how to fly? 190 years old? You look great.
As in the film Offstage, Suotamo struck a friendship with newcomer Alden Ehrenreich, who plays the young, unpredictable, and cocky Han Solo, the role originally played by Harrison Ford.
Jonas playing Chewie, who's so good at playing Chewie, is just funny. He's just, anything he does in the suit is funny, and he really knows how to use the suit to its best comic effect.
Not an easy feat, says Suotamo, considering the suit is hot and heavy. The actor says he sustained neck injuries due to the extra weight he had to carry on his head during grueling 10-hour shoots.
You're gonna need a nickname, because I ain't saying that every time.
Directed by Ron Howard, the rest of the cast is equally engaging, from Woody Harrelson, who plays Outlaw Beckett, to Solo's love interest, Kira, played by Game of Thrones star Emilia Clarke.
Push it!
Another central character is Solo's spaceship, the Millennium Falcon.
Thought we were in trouble there for a second, but it's fine. We're fine.
You see a lot of maneuvers and a lot of adventures with the ship that I think are a step further than you've ever seen in a Star Wars movie.
But some fear that Solo, a Star Wars story coming only 5 months after the release of the blockbuster Star Wars The Last Jedi, may not break the box office like its predecessors. Many say that the story is not as relevant to the original trilogy, and others suggest that after the release of 8, soon to be 9, Star Wars films in just a few years, audiences may have had enough. Jonas Suotamo doesn't share those concerns.
I love the Star Wars franchise, I love the stories, and I love these new films, and I think it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
He couldn't have said it better. Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington.
Well, a British university student has created a range of watercolor paints made from discarded cosmetics. An example, she says, of how the so-called circular economy can help improve the environment. It could also be a way for cosmetic companies and retailers to reduce waste and make more money. VOA's Julie Tabo again has more.
If you look closely, you might notice a slight shimmer shining through these colorful watercolors. That's because they're created with paint that's made from discarded cosmetics. The idea came from Amina Begum, a product design student at the University of Sussex in England.
Due to hygiene protocols and other lawful reasons within the store, they have rules where they have to trash all of the cosmetics that are no longer able to be sold on shop floors. This could be due to anything such as it being dropped or damaged or discontinued.
That's when her idea kicked in.
These products are then crushed down and made into a powder so they can act like a pigment. I then mix it with a gum arabic solution as the binder. I also mix it with some oxgal solution and distilled water for the increased fluidity.
The result? High-quality watercolor paints that are easy to apply.
The difference with this paint is that it has quite a unique property to it in that it has a cosmic shimmer, which is what some of my artists and user testers and other creative individuals who have tried to test this paint have told me as well.
Begum would like to work with cosmetic firms to expand on her idea.
It's a fantastic opportunity for major cosmetic companies because not only would they be making a profit from their waste, but also it will align to certain strategies and sustainability goals.
That's a beautiful message, on a face or on a canvas. Julie Tabo, VOA News.
Well, we leave you now with Ethiopian artist Tommy with in the song She Don't Like Ethiopian Music, featuring Sudanese artist Bobo. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.
አንዳንዴ ይሰማኛል በህልሜም ይታየኛል አላስቀምጥህም ይለኛል ፍቅር ነው እኮ ቅብጥብጥ ያደርገኛል ትውስ ይለኝ ያመኛል እንዴት ልርሳት ከብዶኛል ፍቅር ነው እኮ ዮ ዴዴላ እዩ ከናው ሲቀሞቻ 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 Boy, you want to kupenda we kila siku wanatakiwe bona wewe sifende
Baby trust me, I'm not a player. Why you get mad when I come closer? All I need you just to be my lover. Why you sound like a gunfire?
Baby trust me, I'm not a player. Why you get pain when I come closer? All I need you just to be my lover. Why you sound like gunfire?
Welcome to English in a Minute. Today's episode won't cost you anything.
Freebie.
Let's see what this one is about.
Anna, I love my job.
Oh yeah? Why is that?
I get so many freebies from the bands I write about. CDs, t-shirts, water bottles, even tickets to see them perform.
Wow. The only freebie I ever got from